My name is Bryce, and I'm a dreamer. Both waking and sleeping, my rich and vivid imagination has been keeping life interesting since I was very little. So I'm going to share those dreams with you, and I'd love for you to share your dreams with me. Let's do this together in a little place that I like to call Somewhere in Dreamworld. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Somewhere in Dreamworld, the podcast about all things dreams, waking, sleeping, and if there's another kind, sure, we'll talk about that as well. My name is Bryce Kalla. As always, I am your host. I am not a trained professional, but when I was a youngin', I did want to be a train professional. Because who doesn't love trains? I'm here today with my special guest, M.A. Welcome, M.A.
Hi.
M.A. is an artist who I met at Huge Improv Theater, which is the case for pretty much everybody that's been on this podcast, save for maybe a couple. But yeah, this was like a very recent sort of meeting. I knew of you, but like the actual interaction came very recently, yeah?
Yes.
Yes. And an artist of all kind, which we'll get into later. But what I'm curious is I wanted to be a train professional when I was young, or a conductor of some sort. What did you want to be when you were a youngin'?
Funny you should ask, because it was a really long list, and I wrote it multiple times in my diaries, which I recently discovered. So the list was author, detective, lawyer, environmentalist, first girl president.
Nice.
And there's fashion designer. I think that was it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list. Do you know when that list started? How young?
The first thing I put on it was writer, and I think that was like second grade. And then I made that list in third grade. It's in my third grade diary.
Nice. All right. Any of them looking to come true?
Yeah, I still do a lot of writing and try to publish it and share it with the world, and try to save the environment.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a very good thing to aspire to do and to continue to do. Please recycle, everyone. Also, before we get into this episode, I have to mention our wonderful, wonderful sponsors that could have been. Of course, it's not currently sponsored, but this episode could have been sponsored by Coasters. Not of the roller variety. Don't confuse them with the roller variety. These coasters are the special kind that can hold your drinks, and so that none of the condensation gets on your tables or floors or wherever you keep your drinks. So if you're looking to keep your surfaces dry, coasters are for you.
Yes.
This episode, we're going to talk about lucidity. Mm-hmm. Because I hear that that's something you know how to do.
Yeah, quite accidentally. But my whole life, I feel like I've been leading up to that because I've always been a vivid dreamer.
Awesome. Well, before we get into that, we have to talk about the news. I have some exciting news, and that is that I have been recast into Kabam, the improv show that is it's comic book superheroes. This is actually my third season being a part of it. I'm really excited.
Congrats.
Thank you. Everybody has to re-audition every year, so it's always nerve-wracking, even though I've done it before. So I'm excited that I get to come back and be a superhero again for another season. And then really quick, Midnight Notion does for sure have 2 shows in August, but I have, as of the recording of this podcast, we haven't announced the official dates, but keep your eyes on the Midnight Notion calendar because rock shows are a-coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. M.A., do you have anything coming up?
Yeah, so the improv troupe that I'm a part of, we're called the Sharpies. We're a women, trans, and non-binary improv troupe in the Twin Cities, and we have a show on July 28th. More information will be
Yeah, we can put it in the links below if you want to see that. That's at the Depot, right?
Yes,
Hopkins?
it's at the Depot in Hopkins.
Sweet. And actually, it's a sort of another Midnight Notion plug because the person running that is Chris Ragnacci, who is playing lead guitar currently for Midnight Notion.
Yay!
So even more reason to support MA and the Sharpies.
Yes.
Yeah. Real quickly, who are like? What is the Sharpie? What are they doing? What is your format? What is it about your show what is the show?
Well, we're a group of friends who love to support each other, love improv, met at Huge Theater, and we're growing as a group and seeing where it goes.
Awesome. Well, that's a good thing to do. It's a good sign that you're good friends,
yes.
And wonderful that you're doing improv together.
Yes.
And of course, the last bit of news, repeating from last month, Huge Theater, where we met, and probably, I would assume, your Sharpies?
Yes.
Yes. This is a very important place to the community. As I said before, they're still in the middle of their capital campaign looking to buy a new building. And so it's very, very important. Any of you listeners who are willing to give any amount, all of it helps. It means a lot to me. Does the place mean a lot to you?
It means so much to me. Like, I don't know what I'd be doing right now without it.
Right.
I've made friends. I've taken classes. I've developed skills. I helped start an improv troupe. I'm in a a cappella musical improv trio. So there's so much fun and community there. It means a ton. And I hope everyone supports Huge with this campaign.
Yes, yes. So anything you have to help that would be much appreciated. None of it goes to me or to you.
Nope.
All of it goes to support the wonderful improv community. And I know some of you dreamers are out there like, let's talk about dreams, none of this improv stuff. But really, genuinely, this place is an incredible, incredible place. So it would mean the world to us as dreamers. And if you could give whatever you have.
That would be huge.
All right. I think it's time to go to sleep. As always, if you have a dream you would like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by emailing to podcast@midnightnotion.com, or you can phone them in, leave a recording by calling 612-643-0944. Of course, some of you get the opportunity to be on the podcast, as MA is so wonderfully doing today. Thank you so much for coming. Why are you here again?
We're talking about lucid dreams.
Oh, yeah, lucid dreams. This is an exciting topic because it's something that I heard about. I don't think I even heard about lucidity until like the mid-2000s or something.
Was it Waking Life?
Maybe. That weird, trippy movie with the, like...
Yeah, Richard Linklater and like the animation over the...
Yeah, rotoscoping. Yes,
yes.
It's weird, like they trace the... Yeah. Maybe a link in the description. I don't know. It might have been that.
Yeah.
Could have been. Anywho, it's something I've been interested in and wished that I could do, and I think maybe slightly experienced, but not maybe as much as you have, according to what I've heard anyway.
The rumors are true. I've had some experience with lucid dreaming.
What just in case any listeners for some have forgotten the meaning, how do you define lucid dreams?
My understanding is simply the awareness that you're dreaming.
So just while you're still asleep but you know that you're asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it can be that simple, right?
That's what I've recognized as the definition. But then does it go further? You're actually able to make decisions?
Yeah. And I was questioning, like, what is the cultural definition of lucid dreaming? Because sometimes for me, it simply is awareness and not control.
Oh, okay.
But there are also times when I am the director, cinematographer, actor, I jump between different roles and I can change things and shift things. It's just not typical for me when I'm lucid dreaming that's always what's happening.
Sure. Okay. So I guess, that's something interesting, something maybe to look into, because there have, I guess, the moments where I've felt the closest to lucidity have been kind of, I guess, questionable. Like, what is the actual definition? Where is the line between, well, yeah, I get it's a dream. Monsters aren't real, or whatever the case is.
Well, then maybe you're lucid dreaming a lot. If you're in the midst of a dream and there's a monster coming and your dreaming mind's response is, oh, it's a monster, but this is just a dream, then I would say that you are lucid dreaming.
Everything I know is a lie. Everything is wrong. This whole time, reality is when I'm going to bed.
Yeah. No, everything's flipped.
Oh.
Yeah.
Spoilers. So what? I'm so excited about this topic. When did this all come about? When did lucidity become part of your life?
I can identify. I think the first time I ever had a lucid dream, and it was very significant. A little bit of background here. I have narcolepsy. Okay. And that's something I've had for a while, or, it popped up a while ago. So I was in college in 2008. I went to get a sleep study. Mm-hmm. And that's, big deal overnight in a hospital. And they have attached all these wires to your head.
This is like movie quality stuff, like stuff you see in. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm there all night, and at that time I was experiencing like a lot of hypersomnia, like just sleeping all the time and not feeling rested. Mm-hmm. So I stayed over for like a longer period for observation, did some napping. And during one of my naps while in this hospital, I had this dream that I was at Common Roots Cafe in Uptown, and two of my very good friends, college friends, were there, and they were talking. I was standing with them, and I suddenly like kind of interrupted them. I was like, guys, I'm lucid dreaming right now. What? I am at Abbott Northwestern Hospital getting a sleep study done, and I'm taking a nap, and you're like, this isn't real.
What?
Yeah, literally.
I'm speechless because I feel like the trouble with lucid dreams is staying in the dream.
Yes.
Is that true? Do you think?
That used to be the case for me. Now that I lucid dream more, I'm able to stay. But also on the other side of that, sometimes when I want to get out, I can't get out.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I'll dream over and over. And maybe we can get into this hypnagogia, hypnopompia, the sleep hallucinations when you're kind of between sleeping and waking.
Right.
I'll have these sort of unsettling dreams, and it's always a certain time of day. If I want to have a nightmare, and which I don't, but if I want to have a nightmare, I'm
just really craving one.
Yeah, like I just need a good nightmare.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen something terrifying.
Yeah, right. So yeah, if I want to have a nightmare, it's like usually right around sunset. Like
what?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it like some sort of thing? But I will, be in this nightmare, like whatever it is, demons, ghouls, ghosts, and I'll be trying to get out, and I'll suddenly be aware that I am like in my room sleeping, and I'm trying to get out, and I can't. And so in my dream, I'm doing all these things. I'm like, punching, kicking, getting out, running away, flipping chairs over, and then I wake up and I'm totally still, and nothing is flipped over.
Oh,
but it feels like that because I'm aware that I'm dreaming. And so I think that I'm also doing the things that I'm doing in my dream.
Right. Okay. Now this is really interesting to me because the way that I've heard it, and we've talked about it a little on the podcast before about how during the REM state, your body is shut down and it can't move, right?
Yes.
And so a lot of people, when they kick themselves awake, when their leg like launches into the air, right? A lot of it is coming from a dream where they're trying to say, run, run, run. And the body is just reacting, right?
Yes.
But you're saying that you're doing this run, you're actively doing whatever motion in the sleep, but your body isn't actually reacting. You're coming to still in that sort of sleep paralysis state?
Yes, that is exactly it, is the paralysis. Because, and this is a thing with narcolepsy. Okay. I don't quite understand it, so I'm not going to get into the science too much, but there's a thing in the brain called, it's a neurotransmitter, hypocretin. You can look it up. It's cool. But it has some control where it shouldn't. And then on the flip side, it's not doing what it should. So like people who sleepwalk, it's because the hypocretin isn't doing what it should be or something to that extent. And so with narcolepsy, it's the other way around, that even when I'm awake, sometimes my brain thinks that I'm asleep and it tries to shut my like whole body down. So it's like I experience a sort of sleep paralysis when I'm awake.
Okay.
It's called cataplexy. And so I'll be, just laughing with a friend, and the laughter will trigger this like full body, like all my muscles suddenly just don't want to hold me up anymore kind of thing. So I kind of have to like catch myself a little.
Sure.
And, I've gotten used to it, so I'm able to anticipate it.
Okay.
But, it can be kind of dangerous. Like some people with narcolepsy will actually fall. And I've had that happen. Yeah. And it's usually for a lot of people, not just me, but it's usually like an emotional moment, like a fear or laughter, joy, whatever it is. Surprise is a big one. And you'll just kind of like your whole body just like takes on that emotion because of whatever's going on up in the brain. Right.
So just a really extreme emotion can trigger this. Has anything has anything happened severe? Like, have you ever knocked a head or like broken a bone or anything because of it?
Not because of narcolepsy. I've broken bones, but yeah. But no, thankfully, I've fallen a few times, and one time was kind of scary. Like I kind of did hit my head, but I was okay.
That's good.
And since then, I don't know, I've really learned to control it, but it stinks for a lot of people with narcolepsy who have the cataplexy feature because they spend a lot of their time trying to control their emotions and like control for emotions. So they like can't live their full lives for fear of having that response. And there's danger or there's social stigma or, so that's real.
Yeah, that I can understand that being pretty difficult, but you feel like you've kind of found your way a little bit.
Yeah. And it helps to just tell people like, hey, this might happen because, doing improv and like lots of physical things, it's like, yeah, that's going to happen, especially when there's laughter involved.
Right.
So,
right. Well, and I think that goes for most things. I mean, trailing away from dreams a little bit. I said this to you a little bit earlier, but I think a lot of the problems we have socially in life can be solved by just saying things. Like that situation where you're in the store and you see that person that you kind of recognize, and everybody's instinct is to go, "Hey, you," when the real instinct should be like, "I'm sorry, I forgot your name." And if you just speak that honestly, nobody's going to be like, they might know you better than you know them, but what issue is going to arise from you just being honest?
I agree with that.
Mini rant.
Yeah.
But anyway, lucidity.
Yeah. So that first dream, and then since then I've been able to have them pretty often.
Wow. Is there a point, you mentioned going to sleep at a certain time for nightmares. Is there a time that also triggers lucidity?
I have lucid dreams a lot, but I have the best lucid dream experiences in the mid-morning.
Mid-morning.
Yeah.
What do you define as mid-morning?
For me, that's like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. ish. Yeah. But it's like I'll wake up early because my sleep patterns are weird. I'll feed my cat, might have breakfast and hang out for a bit, might just go back to bed. When I go back to sleep, that is the golden time for all the like superhero epic dreams, all the good ideas for creativity. And those are the dreams that I can remember the best when I wake up.
Nice. I think I might agree with that. I think there's definitely something about the snooze, the alarm dreams, the things that happen in that little tiny period. Those ones really stand out.
Yeah, if I understand it right, I think it's because the REM phase of sleep is like, it is a lighter phase. And so for us narcoleptics, I can go into REM within like less than a minute. Which is how they figured out. They're like, oh yeah, you have narcolepsy. Like you're dreaming, right? Like the second you fall asleep. I'm like, yeah, I'm dreaming before I'm even aware I'm asleep sometimes, which is a fun. I mean, if you're ever around me and I'm falling asleep, just enjoy yourself, have a conversation. It'll get very weird.
I bet.
But yeah, that REM cycle, and that's what, in the morning when you're kind of coming back out of the deep sleep and you're hitting that alarm and everything and you're going back in, it's like, I think it makes a lot of sense. The brain's not going to go right back into that deep phase. Yeah.
Wow. So then, is there any sort of recurring thing? I want to go like back to I don't necessarily know how to phrase this, but is there like a moment that you discover that you're lucid dreaming, or is it from the beginning of the dream? Like, where does it happen?
That's actually very hard to pin down.
Yeah.
Except for that first time when I was just like, hey guys, like
it's
I'm
now.
lucid dreaming. Hey, check me out. That was amazing. But, no, I can't say that I experienced like any consistent, like this is when I know, but there are things, I think they talk about this in waking life. Like there's the triggers, like check your watch all the time.
Yes.
So mine for a long time, this is so nerdy. I would be trying to check the ingredients of things to find out if they were vegan.
Oh, okay.
When I was younger. Yeah.
Okay.
And suddenly, I'm looking at it there. I can't read the words. And sometimes that would be a trigger.
Right. Reading is usually something that can't happen.
Yes.
Sometimes I've noticed that I have been able to read some things, but it's rare.
Can you remember them when you wake up?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
I don't have any that I'm recalling right now, but I know that there have been times where I specifically know that this is a number or I know what it said on the paper or whatever it is. But I know that there are way more times where I've tried and it's just a blur.
I have wanted so hard to like try to figure out how to train my body to like fall asleep, like holding a giant pencil over like a giant pad of paper right next to my head, like, in my right hand, ready to go, thinking maybe I could write it down like, as it's happening. I mean, yeah, right. But when you said in, I think episode 1 of this podcast that there's technology emerging where dreams could be read. First I was creeped out like, oh, that's such an invasion.
Yeah.
But also like for all of us, musicians, artists out there, it's like some of the best ideas come out of dreams.
Absolutely. There's stories of, I think it was, is it Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones? That he there's a story that he woke up one day and near his bed, somewhere in his house, somewhere nearby, the tape machine was rolling.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, what's going on? And he rewound it. And there was like a song that he played in the middle of the night that he must have got up and and just happened to hit record.
No, see, this is where I envy people who, tend more toward like the somnambulism, like the sleepwalking. 'Cause
yeah,
I feel like I'm just like there, completely paralyzed and amazing things are happening. But I do have some sleep activity too, though. I mean, I've woken myself up giggling.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is
screaming.
What is is there a most memorable wake up moment? That's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many recently, but the one that keeps coming to me is that I've been doing a lot of improv in my dreams. I have a hard time pulling the best music, I think, out of my dreams, but quite often I'm singing, I'm creating original songs, lyrics. Can't get them out. I mean, I'm noticing as I'm dreaming and I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. What is this song? And then I wake up and it is gone and it's sad. But recently I did wake up and I had it and I just grabbed my phone and recorded it, and it was just one line. It was like, if a man needs an apple, no time to argue about my gun. And that was it.
I mean, put that thing down and get that apple.
Get that man an apple. Yeah. So I think dreams are really the province of, just a fertile ground for creative anything, especially if you can find a way to record it, to extract it, to remember it. So
I'm a musician. You'd think music would show up way more often in my dreams, but it really doesn't. Maybe I'm not doing enough music. Maybe I should do more. But there's one specific instance I remember in late junior high, early high school, somewhere in there. I was still pretty new to music at the time, but or to making original music with guitars and drums and whatnot. But I specifically remember having a dream where I was singing with Kiss. And I'm not even a Kiss fan, but I was on stage with the band and I was lead singing, and it was the most rockin' song. I mean, we're talking Tenacious D's Tribute, where they couldn't remember the best song in the world. It was that, because it was the best song, and I was just rocking. The audience is feeling it, and I woke up and I cannot remember a single line, a single melody, nothing. It's all gone.
And there was no one there but you to witness your greatness.
It was so unfortunate.
Yeah. It does remind me, so another thing I experienced with lucid dreaming is that, so I will be going along just dreaming normal dream, and then the lucidity creeps in there. Mm-hmm. And what will happen is I start to become my own observer. Like I'm almost trying to stand back and watch and like figure out what do I need to take with me when I go back to the other side.
Oh.
And so two things come to mind. One, I had a dream that I got to meet Devo, because like it started out with like there was karaoke at the Triple Rock, and someone was like, Devo, what's that? I'm like, oh my God, you have to sing a Devo song. So he's singing on the stage. He's just, and I'm singing along. I'm carrying this. This person doesn't even know who Devo is. Then suddenly Mark Mothersbaugh shows up and I'm unprepared. And at this moment, the lucidity comes in and I'm like, I'm meeting Mark Mothersbaugh and I have no preparation. And so as it's happening, I'm like, this other part of my mind is like, there needs to be a camp to prepare kids to meet Devo, Devo Scouts. And I wake up and I'm like, that was a great idea. So that can be fun.
It's so great. Yeah, just the idea to like, hold on, dream, pause.
Yes.
Just a second.
Yeah. Oh. I've also had credits roll. I'm not kidding.
Credits.
I think one night David Lynch he was doing his transcendental thing and he got into my mind. I honestly think so. He directed this dream. It was weird, trolls and men with scaly fins and bathrobes who thought they were the king of some motel in a desert, of course. And then the ocean is there and there's these two people fighting and Julia Roberts was playing one of them. Well, why not?
Why not?
But at the end, the credits rolled and they were weird because they didn't match like a, Lost Highway or Twin Peaks where it's dark and dreamy and strange. Instead, it was like the credits that you would see if you've ever seen the Anne of Green Gables film adaptation from the 80s. Like just pastoral scene with like this cutesy music. That's what played at the end of the David Lynch dream. That was really scary.
Now the big question on, I'm sure everybody's minds is, could you read the credits?
No, but I could tell you what the font was.
Oh?
Or like the general, all caps, kind of bold, like a Times New Roman kind of thing, but way too fancy. Something like that. White on a green meadow.
Oh, okay. All right. As you do. The one thing that really interests me, well, I mean, there's so many things that interest me about this, but we talked about the credits rolling. In a previous episode, I had a guest that talked about having title cards that said like 3 days later and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I guess movies, I don't know how much like cinema has influenced us. I mean, I'm assuming a lot, but I'd be curious to know what someone in a tribe that's outside of developed world, what kind of dreams they experience and how much different they are because of what they have access to and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that in places where they're developed differently or like not as focused on some of the modern things that we call conveniences, that maybe there could be more connection to nature in some cases, or like more possibly more like symbolism that could be meaningful. Like I always wish there were more of because I'm really into animals and I like when animals come to me in dreams. That means a lot, but they don't usually unless I'm lying on an acupuncture table.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I have weird visions. It's cool. It's fun. Or, massage, anything. But if I'm getting body work done, it's a totally different dreamscape.
Interesting. I mean, this is probably the most fascinating thing to me is that like you can almost choose what kind of dream it's like your dream state is a choose your own adventure.
It truly is. And so I'm like, okay, if I want to have like trauma nightmares, I can, I can do this
Sunset
like
time.
between 5 and 7 or 8 p.m. That's, so I try to take my nap earlier. If I want to have dreams that are really creative and fun, but I forget everything the second I wake up, that's like 3 to 5 p.m. slot.
Wow. I've never actually taken note of the times that I go to bed and what is related to them.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to start measuring that.
Yeah. Because, you mentioned that your experience has been with the morning
yes.
alarm. I've heard that from a lot of people. So that's a good time to do some lucid dreaming perhaps, or
yeah. Quick note to anybody who's listening and watching the clock. I'm calling an audible. This conversation is really, really fun to me. So the 30-minute rule is out for this episode because this conversation has to keep going. So I'm sorry if you made it to work already or your jog is completed or whatever it is you're doing when you listen to podcasts. But there's more lucidity that we just can't stop.
Yeah, and if you had to go to work, then you have something to look forward to
when
later.
You get done.
Yeah.
After you finish your nightmare nap at sunset.
Yes, exactly that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So then there was another you'd mentioned being like choosing to like step out of your body a little bit. Or did you say that was a choice or it happened?
Okay, so sometimes it just kind of happens, but I think quite often it's like something really interesting and neat is happening and I need to like separate myself from being the actor or the character and stand over here and be like not even the director, but just someone who's like, okay, this is cool and I need to remember it later. So yeah, just this silent observer.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
What was this? What were you talking about before? The word escaped me, but hypnagogia?
Yeah, so there's hypnagogia and hypnopompia. I'm not sure that I'm saying that right, hypnopompia, but hypnagogia is falling asleep and you have that sleep hallucination, sleep paralysis. It's where you're like, you're partially, you're conscious, or you're like lucid dreaming, you're conscious that you're dreaming. But you're just falling asleep. I think a lot of people might experience it as like that falling sensation. Have you ever had that?
Yep.
Which I can't even get into this because it's so hard to describe, but it's like, I have that times like 1,000.
No.
It's really odd. And what will happen is like, it only happens if I'm really overtired. Like I've been putting off sleep for too long. And with narcolepsy, that can get pretty dangerous. And so I finally lie down. And I'm falling asleep and I'm falling fast. And it's that same sensation that people have. It'll wake them up sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll be having that. And then at the same time, it's this like audio hallucination where one time I was sort of convinced as it was happening, I was convinced that like somehow the government had like planted one of those like radio devices in my head, like, that show Pete and Pete on Nickelodeon.
Whoa, throwback.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, like the mom, she had like a plate in her brain and it's like she was able to.
Oh my God, the plate. Yes. I completely forgot. The memories.
And there was a tooth implant in some dream, or no, I'm sorry, not a dream, a movie, Real Genius, I think, Val Kilmer, 80s, throwbacks. But I like somehow, channeled that, like, okay, this is a pop culture thing that I've seen, Pete and Pete, whatever.
Yeah.
And was convinced like there's something in my brain and it is taking in like all of this audio input from like 700 million different sources.
Yikes.
And usually it's like all these voices talking over each other and it sounds like the voices of my family.
Oh.
And it's like I could go, 6 months without, seeing my family, and that'll still happen when I'm falling asleep, where there's various voices and many of them sound like my brother, my aunt, my dad. And it's just weird. And then I started to fall asleep.
I hate to break it to you, but the Truman Show is a real thing, and you're the star.
I was wondering, I hadn't really crossed that possibility off my list of conspiracies yet. So
I am about to be taken out, but I just wanted to tell you before.
thank you. I'm going to take a sailboat to the edge and try to claw my way through.
References. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's falling asleep. You have this.
Yeah. So that's hypnagogia. That can be a little scary. That's
course.
like nightmare time, like nighttime. And I've read about it. A few years ago, I was having a ton of nightmares. I was like, this needs to stop. So I went to the internet and I looked for seriously, how do you prevent nightmares? There wasn't a lot of advice that I would consider scientific, but I did read something, and I think this was also on Wikipedia. That was if you fall asleep on your back. Yeah.
That's how you prevent.
No,
nightmares?
that's how you have them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And also that they do tend to occur toward the beginning of a person's sleep.
Interesting.
Night. Yeah. I don't know if it's true, but I haven't tested this out.
Yeah, sure. I do. Are you a backside, front? What sort of sleeper are you?
Usually side, but I've had some chronic pain issues, so it's been harder to fall asleep on my side or to roll onto my side. I'm just
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a back sleeper now. Okay.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah. So there's that, but I would prefer my side. It's more comfortable.
Sure. It's really the only answer.
Yeah. I've got 3 pillows and when I'm ready to roll on my side, I got those ready to go. And I'm my cat likes to sleep next to my head and I'm okay, fine. I'll just change the sheets every day basically. But she's got her thing and I'm okay, you got to move now. 'Cause I'm putting the pillows here. So my arm, my shoulders all supported. It's good.
Where you have 3 pillows, what is their configuration?
One kind of flat one that's if I like to sleep on my right side and then I'll just kind of put my right arm on that and then I put either 1 or 2 more down and then I put the left arm so that my shoulders kind of level,
Okay, sure.
Yeah. And
sure.
I've just got this little pillow that I'm hugging. It's fun.
I've become quite the fan of. I've got one on either side of me, so I'm kind of hugging one, and I got one keeping my back warm. Right. But then I've added another pillow between my knees because I got bony knees and they they do when they're next to each other. It's just not comfortable.
Yeah. Got to prevent those clattering bones
clack, clack.
talking to each other at night.
Oh, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to be better for your posture.
Good.
So now we've got sleep hygiene covered. Yay!
Yes. And lucidity, sleep hygiene, and go to bed after the nightmare hour.
Yeah. And some people say, I don't know if this is really true, but some people say what you eat can affect your nightmares. Yep. Yeah.
I've heard that as well. Do you think that any nightmares could be, any recurring nightmares could be resolved by maybe facing that thing in reality or understanding more about it or something?
Yeah, from my experience with the dreams has been that over the years, if I'm having a disturbing dream, especially if it's recurring, it's I'm gonna bring it to therapy. We're gonna work through that. And I have some trauma, some way deep stuff that honestly I'm not sure I would have even known about it if I hadn't had dreams over and over where I'm this keeps coming up and it's very uncomfortable and why so I've done some real life work on things that have literally come to my attention because of my dreams.
I've had significantly fewer nightmares just in life in general after becoming obsessed with dreams and talking about them more regularly.
That speaks volumes, because I'm a big believer in just the radical solution is the right one. And that's, really, that means getting to the root of the thing and confronting it. And I think there's so much power and empowerment in confronting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that talking about dreams, your own and other people's, and working through some of the anxieties and things that make you feel like you're a weirdo and then you find out you're not.
Yeah.
Just all those big juicy pieces of dreaming.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. As I said before, if you have an issue, just speak it. just say that thing, and it becomes a non-issue afterward. Eventually, hopefully.
Yes. It helps sometimes to have witnesses when you're ready, if you're ready, you know. I found that to be true. Like sometimes I'll just, if I share something with like one person, you know, and we've talked about that a little bit, like that accountability of like, here, this is my thing and I need you to hear it because I just need to feel seen or witnessed or heard or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can, it takes a lot to speak it out at first, but man, is it ever relieving to like have it heard and understood and be out there and just,
Very appropriate for Pride Month.
Yeah, Pride Month, which is actually the month prior to the release of this episode.
Oh, yes, that's true.
We are potentially pre-recording this.
Oh, the man behind the curtain has been revealed.
Pay no attention to that man.
You got to train that Toto better. Speaking of dreams and movies,
Yes. What was that other word? Hypnopompia?
Yeah, hypnopompia, if I'm saying it right.
Sure. Hypnopompia.
Yep, that's it. So that's just the opposite of hypnagogia. Like you're waking up and you're kind of like slowly coming into awareness. And so that's a place where a lot of people experience lucid dreaming. And maybe you're hitting the snooze button.
Yeah.
And
I've heard a lot of talk about like seeing bugs or animals or people standing in the room. Is that what this is?
That's been my experience. I don't have that too often. There was a bear once, and I'm like obsessed with bears, so that was cool. It's a little scary. I'm like, okay, what are you doing there? And then I wake up again, and it's gone.
There's a second wake up.
Yeah. Oh, and this is the thing for me with hypnopompia is that it's a little bit of a torture, but it's like I wake up over and over and over and over for like.
This is regular?
Yeah, it tends to happen with the evening sleep. Like I take that evening nap, sometimes that nightmare, you know, but sometimes it's just that I slept for a little bit. I'm waking up. I know exactly where I am, where I'm sleeping. Like, and then I dream that something happens in that space. And then I try to wake up and I think I'm awake and everything seems normal. But then I find out again that I'm still dreaming. And so I'm trying to wake up like 7 times. And all these weird things are happening. And I'm not sure if I'm awake until something weird happens. And then when I finally like rip myself out of it, like just try to like claw my way back to consciousness, which is sometimes what it feels like. And other times I just kind of gradually get there. I'm like, oh, it's really quiet. Nothing's going on. None of this happened. But I'll have dreams that people are coming into my room and taking things or yelling at me or singing to me or all the weird.
You have a literal inception happening.
Yeah. Yes. The one I remember the most is like, it's a little sad, but it's like, I was in a significant relationship and it wasn't going so well anymore. And we just weren't spending very much time together, but I was at his house a lot. And he would go out and do things that I just like, I was recovering from an injury. And so I didn't go out and do things as much. And I would like fall asleep watching movies on his couch. And I think that like some emotional part of me was like, when is he going to get home? I'm lonely. And I would just be sleeping and I would hallucinate that I was awake and that he was coming home. I would hear his voice, exactly how his voice sounds. I would hear like sometimes his footsteps on the wood floors and like the clop of his like bikey shoes and everything. Yeah, it was very real. And I would dream it over and over that he was coming home. And then I'd finally wake up and it was, you know, dead silence. And it just made me feel really like sad.
That's devastating. That sounds exhausting, really.
Yeah. And then I'd fall back asleep and the same, you know, it would happen again. And sometimes it was even like he would come in the room and he would say hello in a way that this person in real life would say hello. Like, you know, same voice, same gestures. It was, a little bit of a torture.
Like mean. Come on, MA's brain.
Yeah. Come on. Subconscious.
Wow. No, that's, I guess I only have really one that I can remember that is anywhere close to this, but not at all. It seems like I had one again back in the school, like high school. I think it was high school. So it would have been 10th grade or earlier because I was still riding the bus. But I specifically remember waking up and oh my God, I'm running late. And the bus like drove by and like went right by my house and no. And then I woke up and, oh, good. I didn't, whew, good. I'm going to make it. And then the bus drove by and no, come on. And then I woke up for real. And I actually missed the bus for real. And it's like, you'd think I had enough warning.
Subconscious mind, like telling the future.
Come on, Bryce's brain. Come on.
That's great, though. That's exactly been my experience of like the waking up and then you think you're awake and then, oh, but you're not yet.
So listen here, kids. If you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, man, that Chris Nolan flick looks like a grand old time. I'd like to run around a hallway that's spinning during an action sequence. It's actually kind of exhausting to crawl your way through multi-level dreams.
Yeah, I sometimes wish I had that like the bathtub set up and like someone there to just like press the button, like get me out of there. You know?
Need a good kick.
Yeah. And like maybe that's something I want to explore more with my lucid dreaming is like coming up with those like very specific, like the watch checking or whatever. Because then I could use that like as a tool to get myself like further along in the dream or like on, control it better or something.
Right. So another question I have for you is the lucid dreaming to you, did it just come to, or was there any training involved? Did you train yourself to do this or just it happened?
I mean, short of checking the ingredients, like every single time I went grocery shopping, I can't think of anything. I'd seen Waking Life a few years before that, but it wasn't like a goal of mine to learn how to lucid dream. I was always having vivid dreams, and then they just became lucid.
There was something I read long ago and actually was incorporating into a book that someday will come out eventually. But it was something about, I think they called it like the REM Dreamer or something like that, where it was like one of those sleep masks that you wear over your eyes. But it had a really like not super strong red strobe. And what would happen is this the light could actually be sensed through your eyelids, so you could kind of technically see it while you were dreaming.
Whoa.
Sort of. And that was the idea to kind of train lucidity, was that like you wear this thing, and when you perceive a red light in the dream, you recognize, hey, this is me wearing that mask thing. And then now it's time to fly or whatever.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned flying because that's like the ultimate thing to do if you're lucid dreaming, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's really neat. And I wonder if it would work better, at least for some people. Like I've heard for some people it is that alarm clock sound that can kind of trigger, like if they're going to do any lucid dreaming, it's going to be in that 5 or 10 minute period.
Yeah.
I don't know if...
Or like 3 hour period if you're like me.
Like, okay, pause, reset the whole alarm.
Yeah,
like,
of the ones on my phone has like 8, 8:05, 8:15, 8:23 just for kicks.
That's really funny. I had in college, I had my alarm clock set up to be, I always do this with an alarm clock. I set it ahead on purpose until like up to an hour ahead.
Yep.
Like that's the most I'll go, but I never know where it's at.
Right.
So it's like once I see that, it doesn't work anymore because I have my phone always. But, once I saw it, it would be like, oh, I don't know if it's 8:05 or 8:55. I don't know if I have to get up now or if I could potentially sleep in more before I go to class. And then my next door neighbor was in my room, my dorm neighbor or whatever, and decided to reset it without telling me because she couldn't stand that there was a clock that was wrong. And she made me late to my Italian class. I was kind of mad.
Come on, roommate. Come on.
Yeah, right?
What are you doing?
But the getting back to the red light blinking mask thing, something flying.
Yes.
Okay,
flying.
So I want to know if you fly in your dreams, and I want to also mention like I don't usually fly, but what I do is I hover. Have you ever hovered?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. This is a thing. There. I think there's only a couple of dreams that I had previously considered to be close to lucid. But now after this discussion, I'm re-examining the definition of lucidity. But had one where I don't know if I had watched the movies recently. I'm not a huge Potter nerd, but I can appreciate the movies that I've seen, and I recognize the nerddom, and I can identify with I like it enough.
There you go.
But I was riding a broomstick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
I was having a real hard time controlling it. It was really difficult.
Was it like a pool noodle sort of?
No, it had its physical properties right. But it was that thing where like I want to go to the left, but I'm like falling and I'm trying to correct and like just staying. The thing doesn't have lift.
Yeah.
Right. The air doesn't work the right way.
Yeah.
And so it was this like I was kind of controlling it, but my dream state was fighting back at the lucidity. So it was like me trying to go this way, but the dream going, no, you're asleep. I'm taking the wheel, and then me taking it back and like really struggling with this thing.
Yeah.
And it was like a mixture of I could feel the rise and fall of gravity, and I could feel the flight and the fear of dropping all the way down. And wanting to correct for it, but I could not quite control that damn broomstick, and it was like exhilarating, but also, I'm glad I made it out of that one.
Yeah, in some ways, as you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, so there might be some people out there, I'm not one of them, who would say that lucid dreaming is when you can fully control a dream. Yeah, I've never understood it that way, but one could make that argument.
Sure.
But I think this wrestling between like the subconscious mind and the waking mind, or whatever you want to call it, like that wrestle for control, is kind of more interesting, and at least like more, well, sometimes more humorous, it seems like.
Sure.
Because I actually had the experience with the dream I had last night. It was an epic one, or it was this morning. So it was one of my epic dreams, and I was with the kids that I used to do childcare for, and they were acting exactly like they do in real life, except that it was the dream world, so things were even more dangerous and unpredictable. Yeah. And it was my job to like corral them. And I have light rail nightmares, or like light rail dreams where like everything's going wrong with the light rail. Yeah. So this was one of them. It was like it was its own thing, like that went, above the highway, running parallel in this little like tube. And I was separate from the kids for a second, and I was like with my friend, and he was like for some reason on a flying bike, and I was in a light rail tube thing, like a light rail car that was like its own little contained thing. Yep. And all I had to do was like land it perfectly inside the light rail tube tunnel to catch the light rail, quote unquote. Sure. So easy enough, right? And I was talking to my friend who was on the floating bike, and I missed it. And then I was like, I was so busy talking to you, I missed it. And he's like, no worries, you can catch it up at Lake and whatever. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll go up to Lake Street. I get there and it's a farm. It's fine. It's just a
Lake
farm.
Street, yeah. Come on.
Yeah, it does that every, third Sunday.
We've decided that this area is now agriculture.
It's true. And there were these people there, and they were like laughing at me, and like suddenly my light rail like capsule turned into this plastic, like clear plastic bag thing that was like a sausage link. So, and I was like just riding it, like those like torpedo things you can ride behind a boat. Oh, sure. Like that. Yeah. But then all of a sudden it wasn't working anymore.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So it turned out it had a hole in it. Oh. So yeah, I never did catch the light rail.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you wake up and also miss the light rail?
No, but I did note that was like my third dream about the light rail, like going wrong in some way.
Oh boy. Boy.
Yeah.
Come on, light rail. Yes. Come on. That is real crazy. It's I'm just speechless. It's such an incredible thing. I talked in a previous episode about training to do lucid dreams. And again, like I said, I'm kind of re-questioning what they mean. But now I'm kind of inspired to try this again. Do you have any active decisions that you've made in a dream that stand out? Anything that has happened that, all right, besides obviously that first, hey, we're in a dream. Wah! Anything that I have decided this is now what we're going to do. You mentioned flying. Do you do that a lot on purpose, or is there anything else?
I do the hovering, and it's really fun because I'm usually like, hey guys, check me out. I'm a hovering. And I just kind of creepy hover. It's so weird.
Okay.
And fun. But no, I don't have a ton of flying dreams. But when you said that, I thought immediately of a dream I had probably like 2012. There was a scene happening. There were two kids. I don't know what they were doing, just like kid things. It was pretty like innocuous. And, but I like suddenly jumped in. I was like, okay, we're going to redo that scene, except now it's going to be set on a beach. And literally that's what happened.
Just start over, just cut.
Yep. Yeah, like almost like that. And at some point then I kind of lost that control again, but it was kind of fun to be like, oh no, I'm interrupting now, and I'm doing so consciously.
Did this happen to did this happen to come around a time you were learning how to do improv by any chance? Because I've noticed that there's a lot of new improvisers who have a tendency to enter scenes with cut, let's try this again.
That's really funny. No, it was before I discovered improv, but I think I was doing a lot of lucid dreaming at the time. So
sure.
Yeah, and then there was another one. It wasn't quite like this was a dream within a dream thing where I had this dream. The plot kind of hard and fuzzy to remember, but very interesting. Like house on the sea on this little peninsula. Girl lost her mom. Lives with her aunt and her grandpa and this other vague character, some sort of cousin or stepsister or something. And I don't know, she's got all these different things she's doing, but what ends up happening eventually is that I think it's a very interesting story. So I kind of like come in there, and then it becomes a new dream where I'm literally talking to the protagonist of that dream and telling her what I had just dreamed about, and then realizing, oh, I'm still in the dream. So everything I just dictated to you, like that's, I don't get to take that with me. And it was sort of like this like literal like slapping the forehead moment in the dream. Like, oh, I can't get out of this. Like I'm going to have to remember now the dream and the dream, the second dream.
Wow. This is some timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly kind of stuff over here.
Yeah. And I think it actually may have happened one more time before I woke up, where I tried once again to tell another person, like, this is what I just dreamed. And then I dreamed this. It's a lot to hold.
Yeah. That is so much information. It's so much fun. Honestly, I could keep going on this for another 14 episodes, I think. Yeah. But just to try to keep it at a double episode only, I believe that it's time to wake up. MA, you said, or I guess I introduced you as, but you introduced yourself to me as an artist. What are some art things that maybe we could check out, or what are things that you're interested? Do you have any waking dreams that you can't wait to get into? Tell us more.
Yeah. Well, I do singing. I make like amateur singing videos, put them on my Instagram. You can find my drawings there too. They're nice, fun and silly. I do some music, like some musical improv. I have a friend who occasionally is in town and brings his guitar over, and we drink LaCroix and make up songs, and we have no idea what we're going to do until we do it. And so those recordings are available on my Bandcamp. And having this conversation reminded me that I have an entire dream zine that's ready to go. So I need to publish that. That's my dream. That's my waking dream.
Like a zine as in a magazine?
Yeah, like it's like a DIY magazine. It's like so it's called a zine, and they're cheap to make and produce, but yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I'll link whatever you have in the description, and maybe someday we can share that finished zine on the podcast as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Nope. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. Once again, if you have a dream that you'd like to submit, those of you out there listening, you can email them at podcast@midnightnotion.com, or you can phone them in with your voice on 612-643-0944. Please share those with us. We'll share them with you. Once again, thank you to MA.
Yeah,
and thank you to Coasters for potentially you could have sponsored this episode. And thank you to all who donate to Huge Theater. Until next episode, next month on the 12th, sleep well, dream well, and be well.